Elizabeth Peterson knocked at death's door repeatedly all throughout her early 20s, but an encounter with the Creator changed her life forever.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Peterson, and I will be telling you my story. So, when I was 21, I fell in love with a boy, and he was a DJ. And prior to marrying him, I had a life of trauma and a lot of rejection growing up from birth to 19 years old. At 21, I got engaged with this boy, and at 22, I got married to him. 5 months after my wedding, my mother died of a bad medication, of valley fever, and she died from this medication. And at that point, that's where drugs and alcohol started getting into my life because I was so devastated that my mom died. At 25, God had this moment with me in my backyard where I knew that I knew higher than a kite that I was having a moment with God, the Creator, and I supernaturally got sober. I went to the bathroom and I puked violently and has never, since that day 6 years ago, have never touched alcohol or drugs since. So God definitely rescued me for that, and it was that moment where there was a shifting that happened in my life where healing really started to come into play because I was no longer addicted to things. So that is my story.
Well, today I have the incredible honor of interviewing one of my great friends, Elizabeth Peterson. Hey, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And here's what's crazy. I've actually never heard your story. We've been friends for such a long time, but I've never heard your story. And this will be the first time I've ever heard it right now. So what is your testimony? Where does it begin?
Well, it actually really begins at age 21. I went through all of the traumatic phases of being a young adolescent and being rejected inside the home from your mom and from the church and various friends in church, and then even in public schooling. So like the level of trauma that leads up to year 21, where I met this boy, fell madly in love. 3 months into dating him, he bought a ring, and at 6 months he proposed.
Whoa.
So then through another year, we went through about that engagement phase. And it was there that I started learning he had bipolar syndromes and things being diagnosed that way. And it was just really, really rocky world to live in.
And what was that like living with someone who was bipolar? Was it abusive? Was it physically abusive?
It was more verbal.
Yeah.
Verbal, because you didn't know whether any morning that you were going to wake up and you were going to have a really good day, and they were going to be at a high, or a really bad day, and they were going to be at a really low.
Okay.
So you're constantly walking on eggshells. But I was so madly in love with this boy, so I was going to go the distance regardless. So November 3rd of 22, I got married, or 2012, excuse me, I got married.
Okay.
And it was a beautiful, fabulous backyard wedding.
Yeah.
5 months after that, my mom was diagnosed with valley fever and died 5 days after a medication that she started taking.
Whoa.
Five months after my wedding day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So a lot of trauma right off the bat.
Right out the gate.
Yeah.
So like from one thing to the next of trauma. And it just kept building after this. So my mom dies, and then several months later, my dad opens up telling me that I have a half-sister who's 20 years older than me.
And you've never met her?
Never. And I'm 23 at this point, and I'm like, I heard of this girl a few times growing up, just her name, but my mom would never let her be spoken of in the house, and I didn't know why. So he wanted to reconnect, find her on Facebook, do that whole thing, and fly out to Chicago to meet her. Lo and behold, we actually did find her.
Yeah.
And we do go out to Chicago September of that year, and it was awkward. But it was like cool at the same time, you know what I mean? Where you're like, yay, I finally get to meet this person, but I know nothing about you.
Right.
And you're 20 years older than me, so who the heck are you?
Yeah.
So we spend about 2 weeks with her, learning about her. And then 4 months after that, December 23rd of that year, my dad dies on the phone with me. He has a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about Christmas the next day. So I literally went from the trauma of mom, the excitement of a sister, to trauma of dad. And I'm technically an only child.
Yes.
And in my first year of marriage.
So you're still married.
Still married. And so dealing with him, trying to take care of him with bipolar too. All of this, my world was like crumbling beneath me.
You were the backbone of everybody.
It sure felt that way at that time.
Yeah.
So 6 days after my dad died, I got a paper letter in the mail saying that my sister was lawyering up against me, trying to claim I wasn't his kid, that I was the stepsister and not a rightful heir to the inheritance.
Oh my goodness. So this girl that you just met, that you were excited about having family, is now suing you for
Yeah.
her father's inheritance.
Yeah, the father that she was never involved with.
Whoa.
Come to find out that my sister, since the age of 2, had been told and groomed that my dad was dead all those years.
Oh my
So
goodness.
she had her own things going on. Then I'm like, come in the picture.
Yeah.
And then I inform her he's for real gone. And now she's angry.
Yes.
Rightfully so, right?
Right.
But at the time, I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
So I then have to go in with getting lawyers and going through the whole probate process at 24 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And I won personal representative of my estate that I had lived with my dad in that house up until the moment I met this boy.
Yeah.
And so thank God for that lawyer. Like, the Lord just lined me up with the right person
Good.
at the right time. And that guy fought for me,
Yeah.
which was fabulous because I didn't know what machine I was going up against who's 20 years older than I am.
Yes.
And so I've only seen her twice in my life. Maybe someday there will be a reconciliation. You never
Yes.
know. Who
Yeah.
knows? So then after that, we go through probate for a year and a half, deal with my family's estate, which was a lot of work just for $40,000 to split. A
Yeah.
lot of work for that. And in this time, because I hit so much trauma, I fell into drugs and alcohol because my ex at the time, even though he was bipolar, he had a skill with DJing. So he was a DJ.
Okay.
And so that's how he made his money in the night shifts, partying and whatnot. So I knew he had a connection with that.
With drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. So I would go drink his tab, and I would join him. I would drink his tab, and he would scrounge up whatever drug-wise.
Yeah.
Pills, weed, you name it.
Yeah.
I became a drug dealer at some point in that time
Elizabeth, I
frame of
never
life.
knew this.
Yeah, right? You wouldn't think.
Yeah, I would never know.
Yeah, all the while still trying to like figure out who Elizabeth is because I didn't know. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my identity. I still had some relationship with Jesus, but like it was so on the back burner, you know, being raised in the church and whatnot. It just didn't seem like it mattered, and it didn't seem like God cared.
Yeah.
Because of all the junk that I was dealing with.
You felt like you'd just been dropped off by God.
Yeah, no point. What's the point on living? So I constantly was knocking at death's door. Constantly. Like every day I would get up, and it's wild to say anymore, but it's the reality. I would do like 7 bong rips in a day just to function,
Whoa.
which is a lot of marijuana. And I remember, this is where the story shifts. At 25, after probate, I knew I wanted to get sober, but I was so far into that addiction and the trauma that I didn't know how to get out. So I would get high, and then I'd have talks with Jesus and
Wow.
in my backyard, and I'd say like, I need your help.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this one day in the summer that prior to that day, I was starting to watch Todd White.
Yeah.
And his testimony of how like he would take a hit and then he'd get sober, and he'd take another hit and like the Lord would make him more sober. And I thought that was the wildest thing. And I'm like, how the heck do you get more sober as you're not?
Yeah.
So I said to the Lord in the backyard, I said, okay, so like Todd White, you can like supernaturally take his addiction away, and you can like make him sober. So I was high, and I saw like this face in the clouds, and I knew that I knew that I knew that I was having this real encounter with the Creator. And I even took a picture of it because I didn't, like I knew, but I wanted to remember it
Yeah.
after being high. And I like pointed in the sky and I said, if you're real,
Yeah.
prove yourself.
Wow.
This is your moment, prove yourself.
Yeah.
If you're real. So like I went to the bathroom and I puked violently in the toilet minutes later, and I walked up from the toilet sober ever since. That was 6 years ago.
Done.
Never craved
Never
it ever
even
again.
craved it again.
No, and that was the drugs, all the drugs.
It's like everything that was in you just was out, and that was it.
It went in the toilet, flush, and it's gone.
Oh my word.
Yeah, supernaturally. So like at that moment at 25, I knew that I couldn't like go back into that world with
No.
my ex. Well, he's now my ex, but my ex at the time,
Yeah.
my husband at the time, excuse me, I couldn't like go back into that world because of this amazing gift God just
Yes.
gave me of supernaturally freeing me from all of these addictions. And so that's where that relationship started shifting, because
Okay.
he wanted the lifestyle we had because it worked for him with what he was dealing with, but it wasn't no longer working for me.
So you had to split.
So 2016 was when I was served divorce papers, and January 23rd of 2017, I started a brand new life with $3,000 in my pocket and no clue how to pay all of that month's bills because they exceeded that with the lifestyle that we were living. And he just packed his bags and left. And so here we are then in 2016, still like lingering with a little bit of alcohol because I'm devastated with a divorce.
Yeah.
Not really thinking that I was holding on to that relationship and holding on thinking that we could go to counseling and do all the things that needed to be done for this to make it work. And it just wasn't working. So then I was a secret closet drinker at the time and drinking bourbon at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I just knew that wasn't going to work with my career anymore. So then again, one Saturday morning, I'm listening to a revival message that's happening in Florida. And so bummed that a bunch of people I knew were there. It was called The Send. And I wasn't able to get there. And I was watching it online, and some pastor starts talking about alcoholism out of the blue. And there it happened again in my bedroom on the floor. I cried my eyes out and said, "Do it again, God." And he did it again, and I've never touched alcohol since.
Elizabeth, I am just so amazed by your story because you've gone through so much trauma, so much addiction, and God just spared you from all of that and has brought you here. Now you're involved in the church. Now you have your own business. Your life has completely shifted. Really quick for me, just tell me, what is the importance of having a church family to help you through seasons like this?
Oh God, it's beyond important, because at the times where I couldn't hold myself up, I was held up by them. And I would call, I need prayer. I need you to love on me. I need to be loved for real. It's vitally important to be plugged in.
And as we know, prayer literally shifted everything for you. So prayer works.
Someone was praying.
We need a church family for that reason. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
That was so amazing to hear your story.
Thank you.
Well, Elizabeth is a result of prayer and the redemption power of God. You need a church family to help you through these dark seasons. God hasn't just dropped you off in the middle of nowhere. No, he wants to help you. He wants to lift you up. He wants to heal you during this season that you are going through. You need a church family to help walk you through this time. Go to dreamcitychurch.us to find your church family today.